chasing, begging, negotiating your worth, these are all actions we regret the most once some time has passed and we look back, shudder, and say, what was I thinking? They weren't even worth it. And if you have experienced a relationship or a breakup with an emotionally unavailable partner or someone who has avoidant characteristics, then you could very well become someone you don't even recognize. Why are you changing so much just to keep around this person who's treating you so bad? Well, here's the dirty little secret. You're not changing for them. This relationship is subconsciously, little by little, changing you. Love is such a powerful force. It can cause you to make all kinds of concessions you never fathomed you would make before you ever met this person. But I'll also bet that when you first met this person, they came up with a totally different energy, charming and mysterious. They had a way of making you feel seen. They cared about you, or at least they acted like they did, and that's why when they suddenly take a complete 180, like a bait and switch, instead of causing you to run in the other direction, it just causes a bunch of confusion and a feeling of longing to try to get the relationship back to where it was in the beginning. And now they aren't the only ones changing, you are too, but not in ways you're entirely comfortable with until before long, you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize the person you've become. Well, I assure you, you are not alone. In the right circumstances, this can happen to anybody. Hello friends, my name is Maria, and I too know what it's like to be swept off my feet, only to be left twisting in the wind. And if you are tired of losing yourself to toxic relationships, then grab a bottle of nail polish and let's talk. I have a question for you all today that I find myself pondering from time to time. Do you ever wonder who you would be or what your life could have been like if things had worked out very differently for you romantically? I dated the wrong guys for years, but the scariest monster I ever faced in the world of relationships was the dismissive avoidant. The breakup alone brought out every demon I ever had. Every secret fear I ever had about myself was shown under a hot magnifying glass the moment someone who told me they loved me threw me away like trash and showed me that the relationship I had invested everything into meant nothing to them. I meant nothing to them. I mean nothing because I am nothing. I can't get anyone I love to stay with me, no matter how hard I try. I'm a loser. I'm annoying. People run from me. I'm going to be alone on every weekend and every single holiday. I will never get what I want. And on and on and on, all of these false narratives that spin around inside of our brains. Listen, sometimes in life, we walk around with a lot of these negative thoughts sitting in the back of our mind. And all it takes is one rejection from someone who mattered to you to validate every negative thing you have ever thought. Even if those thoughts are wrong, it won't matter because at that moment in time, they feel real and your perception is your reality. This is why it is so dangerous to your self-image and your mental health to continuously chase after a person who is continuously rejecting you. Rejection will become the only thing you know, and it will further solidify your negative self-image and negative self-talk. And this is dangerous because it doesn't only affect your romantic relationships. Let me give you a quick example of how this kind of reinforcement and negative thinking can bleed into other opportunities and aspects of your life. When I was in my 20s, all I wanted to be more than anything in the world was a fitness model. I called up one photography studio, booked an appointment with a photographer, and I got him to take some test photos of me. Well, it turned out that he didn't want to hire me. He didn't want to use me as one of his models. He didn't like the way my body looked. He thought that my torso was too square. I didn't have a good waist to hip ratio, according to him. Well, I completely abandoned that dream. I never auditioned for anything ever again. I stopped totally. And I know that sounds extreme for someone who was so dead set on being a model, but welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about your looks. We also have to take care of the inner half. Because it didn't matter, I was in the best shape of my life and everyone told me I looked great. All that mattered was what I had going on up here. As it turns out, my issue was not that one photographer didn't want me. My issue was that one photographer not wanting me validated my entire life's thought process, that no one wants me and no one ever will. It's the reason why when someone who's important to you treats you like you're forgettable, that action reaches down inside of you and brings to the surface all of this utter crap. And if I could go back today and do it all over again, I would have been like, yeah, okay, one studio, one photographer doesn't want me. Who cares? I live in Florida. There's got to be hundreds of bikini and fitness photographers. I'm cute, I'm hardworking. Just because you don't want me, someone out there will. Because I would have had the confidence to know that if I didn't give up, I would eventually find someone who was just as excited for me to have found them. And this is what I'm trying to help all of you see. You know, there is going to come a day when you're going to look back at this person that you think that you need, and you will realize that you never needed them. They are not the gatekeeper to your relationship goals. And your dreams of a loving, healthy relationship, they're not what needs to change. But toxic relationships can change you because we all have insecurities. And that's one thing I learned as I got older. It doesn't matter how together someone seems, we all have insecurities. Some people might be better at hiding them. But some personalities, like avoidants, ghosters, soft ghosters, they have this cruel brand of rejection that convinces you all of your shortcomings are real and your relationship dreams are too far-fetched. You know, we talk about avoidance a lot on this channel, but not everyone you come across is avoidant. Some people just can't make relationships work because they don't know how to treat people. They enjoy playing games. They don't care about ghosting people. They were bullied growing up, so now they're controlling bullies. Maybe they're flat out mean, or they accidentally offend people because when they get criticized, they get overly defensive and lash out, and they sabotage their relationships that way. All of these behaviors break down relationships. As life goes on, that's going to have to be their problem. All of their issues don't mean you have to change or walk around on eggshells so you don't accidentally voice an opinion that offends them. People like this have a hard time making it work with anybody, not just you. And you'll know that as over the years you see that they're still alone. And some of you might ask, well, yeah, great, my ex hasn't made it work with anybody, but in reality, neither have I. I'm still single. And to this I would say, if you are the person who always finds yourself in relationships over-functioning, you're wanting to have the important conversations, you are always the one initiating get-togethers, you want you and your partner to go out and do fun activities, but you're always met with coldness, then you're not the one who needs to change who you are, but you could benefit from some higher relationship standards and a bit of the 180 behavior. For example, one of the things I began doing every day was sitting down for about 20-30 minutes, painting my nails, listening to motivational videos on YouTube, and at some point I started making lists of patterns. Not only patterns of when I would see behavior in myself come out in relationships that was a red flag, it wasn't a good sign, but I would also make lists of patterns where if the other person was displaying certain behavior, it wasn't necessarily a red flag in them, but it was definitely a red flag that they were not as interested in the relationship as I was, and there was a chance that they were probably gonna walk. And I'll give you an example. Now this could be a guy or a girl, but I use a guy as an example. If a guy you're dating comes back from a trip and he doesn't seem to be in a huge rush to see you, that's bad news bears. And you know how you know it? You can feel it in your gut. because you couldn't wait to see him. You might have even messaged him while he was away, asking him when he was coming back, when in reality, you would have never had to do that if the guy was just as interested in you, and I'm sure he probably would have even initiated messaging you while he was away, telling you that he misses you. That guy or girl, well, they would make plans with you when they got back, and you would know. It would be obvious how much they missed you when they were gone. But when I was dating the wrong guys, this kind of thing where I was never treated like a priority, it used to happen to me all the time, and it really doesn't make you feel good because you start to wonder, why aren't you a priority? What else and who else is so much more important to you than seeing me? Don't you miss me? And it starts to bring out all of the insecurities, these toxic relationships and situationships. They start to bring up all of that, hey, I'm feeling a little left out here. It's never a good sign. One of my very best friends, who I will call Kristen, she's younger than I am. She's 32. She just had this happen to her when a guy she'd been seeing for about 2.5 months came back from a cruise, which for some reason he went on without her, and I don't know why. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it was something for work, or it was something he bought tickets for before they met, and there wasn't any malicious reason why he did not invite his girlfriend to go on a cruise with him. Oh no, that's the important part. She was not his girlfriend, because even though she was pushing for it, he was always kind of like pulling away from it. And of course, she started blast texting me because she was completely freaking out about whether or not this guy is serious about her. Well, when he got back from his cruise and he really didn't seem to give a hoot about seeing her right away, she started to throw out ultimatums. She was already seeing behavior in him that was making her feel insecure on the inside. Like, one of the things she says was she didn't understand why he only wanted to text her 1 time a week, and they only saw each other about once every 2 weeks. So she was already feeling insecure about his interest level. And no, that behavior does not sound like he was super interested in anything serious with her. However, she began to throw out ultimatums, which, if you knew Kristen, she's not like that at all. She's super zen, yoga. She leads meditations. She doesn't seem like someone who's very easily rattled. And yet, this guy has her throwing out ultimatums, and she said, if you don't start texting me at least 2 to 3 times a week, I can't be in this relationship with you. And when she told me that at first, I was like, it's never a good sign, and you never want to go the ultimatum route, and if you are, it's probably too late anyway. But she wasn't asking my advice, so I zipped it. Well, she didn't need my advice anyway, because 2 days later she came back to me and she's like, you know what, Maria? I broke up with him because if I have to start throwing out ultimatums in a relationship, we really don't have the kind of relationship that I want. And she was spot on, because stress can bring out different sides of us that don't normally come up. And I myself would argue, just stay away from people who tend to bring out the worst in you. I do have a video about this subject. It's called Avoidant Narcissists, Distort Your Image, and I'll go ahead and link that for you down below. But there is one thing I want you guys to know about my friend Kristen, especially for you ladies out there. She had a boundary that she stuck to in that situationship, and it saved her, because it was not the first time he had displayed hot and cold behavior. She would not sleep with him because he had not yet shown her in the 2 months that they were dating that she was a priority. He acted super interested in her at first. He was initiating, asking her out on dates. He was paying for everything. But when the rubber hit the road and she finally called him out on the one thing she wanted, a relationship, and he found out that he had to step up or he wasn't going to get the one thing he wanted, which apparently was hooking up, well, the whole thing fell apart. And she did say, although she was upset, she was surprised that it only took about a week for her to get over him, because she had not invested everything into a man who wasn't giving her everything. and she went on to date someone else. And for 32, I think it's awesome that she knows herself and she knows her attachment wound well enough to know that if she had jumped into bed with that guy, it would have been almost impossible for her to emotionally leave him, even when he started playing games, keeping her at arm's length, or maybe even seeing someone else, if he wasn't already. That situationship would have turned her into someone she wasn't. And this is why it is so important, whether we're sitting down to paint our nails or paint a Warhammer miniature, we think about, what are we over-investing into relationships with people? What are we doing that's making us feel stuck in situationships where we feel like we have to make it work no matter what? And yeah, for a lot of people with attachment issues, sleeping with someone too soon is a way to get stuck with someone that down the line you can't stand. But that wound is telling you that you are bonded with them and you have to try to make it work. And regardless of what people say, hooking up affects guys emotionally too, especially if they're with a woman that they really are interested in and that they see a future with. If you find this relationship turning you into the kind of person who's chasing, yelling, begging, throwing out ultimatums, then it might be the best thing to throw out the relationship and try to start over again. And I know that when you are in it, it is so hard to leave it. You have to be ready. And I talk about that in my video, Transform Yourself After a Catastrophic Breakup, which I will go ahead and link down below. The very first step before you take any of the other steps, you have to be ready. It's the only way you'll be able to overcome that overwhelming, anxious pull to stay in toxic situationships like this. All you have to do is take that first step and finally admit to yourself that you are ready. And then after that, it's one small step at a time until you really have changed. And I would venture to say, you're not changing at all. You're transforming into the person you were always meant to be before all of the toxicity in this world got all up in here. Toxic relationships can sneak up on you and they can change you. But I am telling you, get out before they do, because it's not a matter of you needing to change yourself. It's more about you keeping your wonderful, caring, empathetic, and energetic qualities and just becoming more choosy about who you choose to share them with. Choose people who choose you back. Text people who text you back. They're happy to talk to you and they don't pick on you for being clingy or annoying. I have a viewer I was talking to and she finally realized that she was never clingy. She was never too much or asking for too much. She was just asking the wrong people, and she is 100% correct. You know, all the guys I dated that were wrong for me, a lot of them told me they thought I talked too much until I found the right guy who loves to listen to me talk. And when I'm not in the house, he tells me he thinks it's too quiet. You know, it's awfully funny how when you're dating the right person, magically, you're never annoying ever again. And for someone like me, that's great news, because God knows I can never hut up. If this video helped you, so will this one. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.